and I guess all my team is as well. So I'm Rohan Mehra. I'm the president of Harrovians. A very good evening to everyone who's taken their time out and come to witness this great epic event. Good morning from here in India, where I am currently stuck up thanks to the virus. So this is making this entire event more global in nature. I can already see so many people from various parts of the world who've logged in, and we all are looking forward to these three brilliant speakers who are going to share their thoughts with us today. Chris, Eduardo, and Gagan. All pioneers or all, you can say, stalwarts in their respective fields. And today they will surely make this workshop a grand success. In terms of Harrovians, we are based on Harrow on the Hill. Right now, I can say we are based online like any other Toastmaster club. And one of the friendliest and fun clubs to be around. I guess my team and the club members can vouch for the same. At the same point in time, for all those people who are new to Toastmasters, Toastmasters is a non-profit organization which is mainly towards improving your public speaking, becoming a better speaker, getting rid of your nervousness and things like that. So very warm welcome to everybody. A big round of applause to all of you for making it to this workshop. Thank you so much in advance to my entire team for making this happen. Thank you so much, committee. Thank you so much, Harrovians. And thank you so much to the entire Toastmaster fraternity. So I'll now pass the baton to our Zoom master for the evening. Seema, over to you.
Thank you, Rohan. A very warm welcome to all of you. I hope you're braced to hear some wonderful speeches for the next 2.5 hours. So before I start off, I would be requesting some housekeeping rules over here. One is, please put yourself on mute. If you would not like yourself to be on YouTube because we are live streaming this, then you could switch off your video. And if you feel that the bandwidth is an issue and you're not able to hear properly, please switch off your video at that point. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that if you have any questions for the speakers, then please feel free to send them on a private chat to me, because I will then ask those questions to the speaker at the end. My name is Seema Menon, and I am, if you can see, it's Toastmaster Seema Menon. So just send it on a private chat to me. And before we start off, as the speakers come on, please go and select the speaker view and pin the speaker so you can take full advantage of the speaker and what he says, rather than having it on a gallery view. And yeah, that's about it. So we are ready to roll. My first helper for this evening is the timer. I would like to invite Indra to share his role and what he'll be doing today for the benefit of all those who are not Toastmasters.
Hi, thank you very much, Seema. I'm mainly going to be using the different background colors, green, amber, and red. And I've got the timings here at which point I will switch the colors. Hopefully the speaker will pin me to the top of the screen so they'll be able to see the traffic light colors. And I believe at the end of each speech, there'll be 5 or 10 minutes for the question and answer. And the whole idea is to try to keep to time so that the whole evening does not drag and everything is done in the appropriate time. Thank you, Seema.
Thank you, Indra. Now we start off with Harrovian's Triple Whammy workshop. So what a wonderful way to end the Toastmaster year in June. We thought we shall give a boost to everyone by organizing 3 great speakers today evening. The first speaker is Eduardo Contreras. He's been a member of the Data Science Speakers Club for almost 5 years now, and he was a president of the club at some point. In today's session, he combines his professional skills as a data scientist in the banking industry with his public speaking skills to find patterns of what makes a good speech. When he is not crunching numbers and not doing public speaking, he likes traveling. And he was about to visit country number 50 last Easter. But then we all know what happened to that. The global pandemic postponed that plan. He won the latest humorous speech contest at his club with the speech titled, "Look, Mum, I'm British," which was a story of surviving the weather and the accent in UK. In exchange, what does UK get? UK gets some Mexican tacos. So with a speech or a session titled "Words That Will Inspire," using AI to improve your public speaking, I invite Eduardo to take the center stage. Eduardo.
Thanks so much, Sima. I'm gonna share my screen, so let's see if everyone can see it. I think now, yes. Perfect. So let's start now. Let's see. Perfect. Everything works fine. So thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my workshop on using artificial intelligence to improve your public speaking. First, I want to start with a confession. Yes, I have a confession to make. And this is it, that I love data. And I love data because data is everywhere. And data is generated at every single time in our lives. So let me give you some examples. We generate data when every time that we are using the internet, every time that we're clicking on an ad or checking our emails or tapping on our mobile phones, we generate data. We also generate data every time that we use our debit cards or credit cards just to buy anything online or in the groceries or any shop. We also generate data when we are even just walking with our smartwatch. But for today, I'm gonna be focusing in one specific kind of data, the data that we generate every time that we do public speaking. I'm gonna start with some examples about what is about this data. First of all, I want to show you my 3 favorite speeches. So in here you have the quotes of my favorite speeches. They were given by 3 different speakers at different times, at total different times. And let's see, let's play a game. Can you identify the speakers behind here? You can put in the chat yes, or you can nod, or you can do a thumbs up. Hopefully now you get all of the 3 speakers. Let's see. So we have that I'm talking about John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Winston Churchill. And I think mostly of us got these ones. So definitely they were really, really good speakers. They were basically, with their speeches, they have shaped the world that we live right now. And with my data curiosity, it was telling me that probably there have some similarities between these 3 speeches. So what I did is I took basically all the transcripts from their speeches, and I analyzed the words that they were using. So in here you have for each of the different 3 speeches, you have the words that they were using, and the size of the word is telling us in here how frequent they use that word in specific. So for example, you will see that the bigger the word, it will be many times that they use it. In here, John F. Kennedy used a lot the word space. For Martin Luther King, he used a lot the word freedom. And also for Winston Churchill, used a lot the word fight. But can you see here that there is one word that is used similarly across the 3 speeches? Is right there in the middle, and you say in there. Yes, probably you are looking at the same word that I'm referring. Is the word will. Well, okay, probably at this point you are saying, okay, Eduardo, look at this, because Winston Churchill is using the word shall. But you know, for the British style, that's kind of the same word. So at this point, it's telling me that they are using the same word to inspire people. They use the same word, is the most used word that in some way they want to make people look at the future, to take some action. And also another similar technique that they use, these three different speakers, was to use the structural repetitions, which it means that they use a specific phrase many times across their speeches, and this is to create impact and also to make sure that people remember the message. So in this case, John F. Kennedy used a lot the phrase "We shall go to the moon." For Martin Luther King, it was the phrase "I have a dream." And for the case of Churchill, he used a lot the word "we shall fight." So it was a really good technique to make sure people to create the impact and make sure people what was the main message. So now let's go to this is something that I analyzed with just 3 speeches. But what about if we use more speeches? Because ultimately, if these 3 speakers use the same technique, so potentially that means that there are patterns that people use when are doing speeches that make them more inspiring, that make them more to create more impact. And I think it's something that we have practiced a lot in Toastmasters. Like we know the basic skills that makes a really good speech. But what about if we use a lot of these speeches to analyze the actual patterns that are across a lot of speeches? And probably it would be really difficult to find a really large collection of speeches to analyze. But luckily, I found the perfect data set to analyze. And this is because you will be familiar with this following video. Yes, I'm talking about Tech Talks. Tech Talks is, well, basically, is the main purpose of this is to make people inspired to take action. And also, there are quite a lot of them. So it's a really perfect data set to analyze and to see what are the speakers, what are the actions of the speakers that they do to make their speeches more powerful. So now I'm going to be covering how I analyze all of these tech talks to identify what were the most important actions that they took to make their talks inspirational. And I'm going to be covering the journey that I took. I will be focusing briefly in the first 2 stages. That is how I took all of this data into my computer and analyze them, and also how I built this artificial intelligence to find the patterns behind all of these speeches. I'm going to be covering a lot in detail more the third phrase, that is going to be how we can use those findings, how we can use that artificial intelligence in our speeches. So let's start from speech to data. So when you go to the Tech Talk website, you will see something like this. And in here, just right there, there is a lot of data. And I'm going to cover what is the data behind. First of all, you have the transcripts of every single Tech Talk. And it's not just the text in itself, but there is a lot of data additional to the text that is in there. That is, and 2 ones that I found really, really useful for this analysis were about when the people were laughing. There was an indication in the transcript that there were some laugh, and also when the people were applauding. So you can see when in specific times of the speech, the speaker was grabbing the attention of the audience. Also from here, you can see that the duration of the speech, how long it took for that speaker to deliver the message in the stage. Also, one important one is when it was released. So we are talking here of all the Tech Talks that are available. So in this case, as you can see, this Tech Talk from Bill Gates that is now quite relevant to these days. It was It was released in 2015, so quite well spot on that prediction of an outbreak. But the most important factor that the AI will look is about the number of views, because ultimately this is the number that the AI will look to see if a TikTok is really is viewed a lot. That means that it's really popular, and what it will be, that is the assumption that I will be using, is that if it's really popular, it means that the speaker was really engaging, that it created a really powerful message. So it will analyze and compare the most viewed TikToks with the less viewed ones, to analyze what were the factors that were making some of them more viewed and popular, and some other factors that were not relevant to use. So this is about the data. And in total, I analyzed more than 2,500 TikToks from all the TikToks events available. I think there were around 15 years of TikToks available that were used for this analysis. Now let's go to about building the AI. For this, I analyze and I use a lot my previous experience, as in the introduction it was mentioned. As a background, as I am a data scientist, and my professional experience, I've been working mostly in banking and in companies like Citigroup and Lloyds Bank, and now currently as a consultant across all the banking industry. And my main goal, my main task is to develop credit scores, which basically means taking all your financial history and create a score that ultimately that will reflect how likely you are to pay pay back all the expenses that you do in your credit card, or also all the to repay back your loan, or all your mortgage, and everything in here is just reflected in one single number. So basically, this cartoon that you can see here is the most accurate representation what I do every day. So with these skills, I also, it involves using a lot of programming. So yeah, it was all of that crunch on the numbers at the end comes from doing a lot of programming in here. And also about doing a lot of statistics and a lot of mathematics that for this part, I'm not gonna cover this boring section. This is not the focus of this, but by combining all of these skills, I developed this artificial intelligence that instead of giving you a credit score, it will give you a speech score, which I translated that if a speech score is 0, it means that it's not a really good speech, that there is a lot of room for improvement. But if the AI speech is telling us that it's 100, it means that it's a really, really good speech. And this score will vary from 0 to 100. So now, knowing the basis of how this works, let's see what, after putting all of those into action, and I spending some evenings building this, let's see what the AI actually found. So first of all, this model in general, it's quite a good model. It's comparing from the standards of used in banking. So this one in specific, it will predict around 75% of the times if a speech will be popular or not. So it will classify correctly if it just sees a new, if it just analyze a new speech, it will classify quite well if it's gonna be good or bad. And what were the most important factors that makes a speech really that will make a speech really important, really inspirational? So let's look at the most important factors detected. First is that it was about the duration. And what it found is that the shortened duration of the talks were more effective. And looking at this one as something as if a speaker managed to put all the message in a condensed way and in a short time, that means that he did a really good job in developing something that it won't require that much time. So what I found is that the shorter the tech talks, they tend to be more popular and more viewed. The second pattern that it was really important for to make that makes a tech talk really popular, it's about speak slowly. And this is about the pattern behind is that the speakers that use less word per minute, they are so much better and more engaging. And in particularly, every time that I talk about this point, I tend to even slow down because in some way that gives time for your audience to understand your message. So what are you actually trying to say? So speaking slowly is a really good pattern of how you can make your audience more engaging. The third pattern is about asking questions, and the more are the better. And this is something that I feel that every time that I'm listening to a speech, I feel also that if the speaker asks a question, I feel more engaged, I feel motivated, and I put more focus on what is actually saying because now I put in myself in that role, an engaged role of actively participating in the talk. So what it detect the AI detect that every time that the speaker was asking a question, that will tend to be a really good trait for very good and popular TED talks. Now the fourth factor that it detected, it was about make your audience laugh, to use humor in your speech. And this one comes from the transcripts. So basically, every time that in the transcript there is a part that it says that the audience laugh, that basically the AI detected that the ones that they were producing more laughs, more humor, they were more engaging. And I think it's something that is going to be covered later on in one of the other workshops today. So really looking forward for that, know more about that. And now finally, another important factor that the AI identified was to make a really simple message. And the metric that it was used, it was that the talks that were using less words per sentence, they were so much better. And I think it's simplify as just make it simple. Try to avoid jargon. Try to make a really simple message so the audience will follow you through all your speech. So these are the most important factors that are identified. There are other factors that are important, that are relevant, but not as important as these ones that the AI is using to see if a tech talk will become popular or not. But now let's try to use these ones and see and analyze how I was feeling about watching the tech talks that this AI was giving the score. So what I did is like I ordered them from the really low score to the high score. So you will see here from the left to the right. To the left is the low score, poor speech, and to the right side, the good speech. And let's start to analyze some of them to see what were the results. So one of the tech tools that were really low with really low scores was from Ethan Zuckerman, and it was about listening to global voices. And I started to watch this tech talk, and I found that it was basically everything that the AI was saying and the factors that we covered in the previous slide. Everything that was said to be wrong, he was doing it in some way, unfortunately. So he was speaking quite fast. He was also it was quite dry. He was not making any jokes. He was not asking any questions. And generally also, even the duration wasn't that bad. It was 20 minutes, but it was not engaging at all. So that ultimately it's leading to a low score because also it was not highly viewed, this tech talk. Another one that quite surprised me, it was about the founders of Google in their TED talk. When I was watching, the AI detected that also this is a low score, that it has really bad traits of a good public speech. And what I saw when I was watching this video, I was also having the same feelings as in the previous one. They were really dry. They were speaking fast without adding any humor or creating an engagement with the audience. And like really on a really interesting, I also found that another person from the IT world, now in this case Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, he was repeating those same traits. So probably tells me that the in the IT industry, probably there needs to be more work in doing really good speeches. But now let's move to the high scores. What the AI was identifying as really good speeches. First of all, one of the highest scores was given to Stephen Hawking in his TED talk about questioning the universe. So in this one, we need to know that with the assisted voice, that makes the speech to be or the talk to be it was slow. He was speaking in a slow way because this assisted voice, which helps a lot for the general words per minute metric that I was mentioning before. But also, even in his title of the TED talk, he's talking about questioning. And when I was watching the TED talk, he was using a lot of questions, which makes the AI to give a really high score. And ultimately, when I was watching, I was also asking myself those questions as he was saying. So that makes the speech really, really engaging. And on another, and on also on the high score, really good speech, and something that in some way as being a statistician gives me really good hopes of becoming a really, really popular TED talk is about Alan Smith. And his talk is about why you should love statistics. And even that he's talking about statistics that probably everyone hates, he just giving a really good TED talk. And I'm not just talking because I'm a statistician, but he actually breaks down a lot of the good traits of a public speak. He's asking a lot of questions using a really, really good humor. And also, he's making the audience to be engaged. And he's using a shorter version of a TED talk, which in this case, it was lasting around 13 minutes. So he grabbed all of the good traits of a good speak into his TED talk, and I really recommend watching his TED talk because that's a really, in some way, that's a really good way to give a technical talk that that it can be delivered to any kind of audience. So really, really good speech from him. So now we have break down the traits of the TED talks, but now the question goes into how can you use this AI model to improve your speeches? And I have used all of these models and I have developed an application. I have put now a website that is called speakthedata.com. And in this website, I have put all of these models so you can use it in your speeches. And in particularly, that will give you ultimately the score of how inspiring, how impactful will be your TED talk, sorry, your talk. And let me give you an example of how you can use it. So the way that you can use it and the way that I did it even for this speech that I'm using is first write your script or record your script of where you are aiming to give in your talk. There are many tools available online and for free that you can use to not write it specifically, but by the time that you are saying it, you can record it and it will automatically will be written. So for example, there is, if you have a phone, there is applications like voice recorder, or in Google Docs, you can also find this functionality for free. So you can record everything that you are aiming to say on a talk. So first do that one, and then copy and paste that one into the tool in speakthedata.com and fill the forms in there about the duration, and also indicating there if you are, let's say, saying a joke, there is also a way that you can include in there that you are creating some humor. So the tool will identify that you are using humor. And then after you have put all of this information, Then you can execute the artificial intelligence and it will give you what will be your score. So hopefully it will be around pointing to the 100s. And if not, it's gonna tell you what it's recommended to do. So probably it's gonna tell you, okay, you need to use more jokes, or probably you are trying to say too much in the time that you are aiming to use. So try to reduce what you are saying. Or also, it could tell you that you are making sentences really, really long, or yeah, or basically you are not asking many questions. So this will give you where you can improve your talk. And after a few iterations, then you can feel that your score will be increasing if you are using better traits. And then once you have it, then you can just rehearse your speech for your delivery. So this is the general tool that I developed of analyzing the tech talks and how you can use this information for your benefit, and ultimately how you can use this artificial intelligence to recommend you where you can improve. I would like to close this session with concluding that the AI actually make my life easier to try to analyze 2,500 tech talks to analyze and to see which ones were the relevant patterns that makes a speech really popular. And also, there is now an online app that you can use for your benefit, and it has another functionality, like it's telling you what's the most popular word that you are using, and also what's the sentiment analysis. So it's if you are using positive words or negative words, if you feel that you want to tune your message, and ultimately how you can improve your speech. And yeah, finally, like it was really interesting for me combine my professional experience with my public speaking passion and make something that many people can benefit to improve their public speaking. And I'm gonna say thank you. I have all of this material is already there in speakthedata.com. I have put a lot of the details about on the technical aspect, even if you are on the data science background, you can see in there like what actually I use in a more technical way, because I have given this presentation to other conferences, but more related to data science. So they were interested in how I build the AI. But also in my website, I put more analysis about, in general, about data. I have put recently, and I have worked a lot in analysis about income, about age. So yeah, in my website, you can find on top of this material, you can find many other ways of how I translate data into public speaking, and especially how I present across conferences, or even at my data science, at my Toastmaster club that is called Data Science Speakers. You can contact me also in my email if you want to get more details. And in my Twitter, I have it there. I don't use it that much, but I have it also there. And I think it's now time for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to you, Tima.
Hi, that was a fantastic speech. I mean, it was amazing to see the AI tool and what it does. And you said you've gone through how many years of TED speeches?
So it was 15, I think it was 15 years of TED Talks. And all of
Fabulous.
these data set, yeah, it was 2,500 TED Talks in total, a little bit more than 2,500.
Great. So I've got some interesting questions from our viewers. So this question from Chris is, he wants to know if you had used your tool on the entrance to the World Champion of Public Speaking, and do you think it could predict the winner?
Yeah, interestingly, now from the Data Science Club, we have used this tool live. So we have every time that we have, or many times that we have a session, I put it there, and the speakers, they give their talks, and at the end of the session, as an additional evaluator, I come and give them the ranks with the tool, and it has been quite lucky on that side, on that accuracy, because many times have predicted the winner score of the people that had voted for them. So I think in general, it has been quite good to see that it actually works. And also I use it myself also for this my humorous contest, just to make sure that I was getting the right speech, asking the many questions, and using the right amount of time of 7 minutes to give the speech. And I actually won, so that was a really good also group benefit. But definitely this is something that can be extrapolated to other areas, like for example, and as it was mentioned, probably one analysis will be to take all of the transcript from the World Championship and see if actually it's making the right prediction.
Yeah, good. And maybe you should offer it to the district team to use it as the third referee for the next round of district competition. Another question that's been posed is, what do you think is the best rate of speaking per minute?
Oh, I have, yeah, it was interesting. I think it's something that I need to put now in the website, because right now it's just breaking down in five levels. So it's telling you if you are really speaking really fast, or if it's telling if you are speaking really like all the really slow or really fast. But I haven't calculated in a specific the rate per minute. But it's something that I can put in my as a further additionality of the tool to tell you your actual rate and give you a reference on a specific number. But yeah, it just basically tells you if you are speaking really fast or that's or if it's a really good measure. But in general, the slower is the better.
So then you would recommend that they go to the app and test it out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Can you repeat the name of the app?
Yep, it's on the website directly, speakthedata.com. You will see there a section that is called Analyze Your Talk. And in there, it has all the instructions and the app directly of how to use it. And even if you log in with your mobile phone, it can work just to see a demo from there.
Okay, so I'm putting it on the chat saying that app can be found on speakthedata.com.
Yes.
Yeah,
thank
okay. There was one more question. Indra, you need to tell me when we hit 30 minutes because for the questions to finish and for us to invite the next speaker. Till then, the question is, would you like to comment on data that you have not captured? For example, the amount of eye contact.
Yeah, that's something that important to know, that everything that is used in here is the transcripts of the tech talks. Something that is also that it will be really beneficial to use in the future is or in future iterations is to analyze exactly the video itself or the audio itself. In general, this is quite more difficult challenge for AI, because it's basically analyzing the video and the audio and try to see how to indicate to the AI what is a good trait or not a good trait from public speaking. So in this case, it will be to create an algorithm that the speaker is looking to the audience, which I think in general terms probably when the technology is not ready there to make sure that it's doing it. So by now it's using all the text from the tech talks as the main component of the AI.
So then we can say this would be phase 2 when it starts picking up all the other gestures and movements, right? One last question, and the rest we will pass it on to Eduardo, and he'll be more than happy to respond to that. The last one is, have you ranked a Trump speech to see how it's ranked?
Yeah, that's something that everyone is asking me. I'm afraid if I could break down my algorithm, but no, but on this case, like I've been checking. There are really a lot of books about good speeches. I think it's from the Penguin collection. It basically tells breaks and has published all the speeches, the historical ones from Gandhi and all of them. To very recent ones from Obama, and it has all the text from there. So one analysis that I would like to do is to take all of those speeches and put it into my tool and see how it comes. So who is ranking best? But it's also that something that people can do now. Like if they have some free time, they can just put it in the tool and see what is actually coming, because the tool is free to use and you can just put any speech, and then you can even, feel free to use it. Or if you like to some support, I will be also really happy to receive some support to this kind of analysis. So just send me an email, and we can follow on that one.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for your wonderful insight to AI and how it's all pervading, and how something very creative as speaking can also be analyzed and perfected further. Thank you very much. We now go on to the next speaker. That's Chris Murphy. Let me give a brief introduction about Chris. He's been a member of Tunbridge Wells Speakers Club for the last 3.5 years. He will share with us his journey and experiences of the speeches, the contest wins at the club, area, division, and finally district level in May 2020 for speech evaluation and table topics. Chris will share with us why did he think he won and what we can learn from it. Chris defines himself as a restless soul who doesn't sit still much, having spent the last 3 years renovating a house. He is now working as a speaking coach and a mentor. He's been described as a nauseatingly social who gets very excited about speech evaluations. Don't we all get excited about speech evaluations? And spends any spare moment that he has at his allotment. His friends say that he needs to get a life. With a session entitled Slug Watch, why using slug pellets won't really get rid of your slugs. Why slugs? Well, let's find out. Chris, the stage is yours.
That's marvelous, Seema. Thank you so much for that. Welcome, everybody. And I've got the stage for 45 minutes. Nobody at my club would give me the stage for longer than about 2 minutes if they had any sense. What are you doing? But fear not. Set your bladders, set your desire for tea, coffee, beer for about 35 minutes. I'm going to talk for about that length of time, roughly, and then there's 10 minutes for questions at the end. What I want to do is I want to provoke a little bit. I'm going to tell you some of my experiences. I really want to put across some things that you'll learn from. So if you go away from this talk having learned one thing or inspired to do one thing, then it's been a great success. If it's entirely about slugs, I wouldn't necessarily say that's the biggest success. I really want it to be about speaking. As I said, if something comes up throughout that is a real learning point for you in terms of disagreeing or agreeing, then do let me know on the chat. I'd be very interested, because I mentioned about our club. I kind of get a bit vocal. I'm going to get a bit vocal about Toastmasters, and everything I'm saying is not going to be entirely positive. So be prepared. Just before I start, Seema sort of said a few comments about me. As she kindly shared there, I'm kind of restless. And the reason for telling you this and one other thing about me is what I wanted to do was just to give you some indication of some of the traits I think that have been helpful for me over the years. With regards to that curiosity and the restlessness, I'm just going to tell you one quick story that'll really sort of give you the indication about this has been around for quite a long time. Most of you will probably know of Scouts or the Scouting movement, and Cubs is the stage before Scouts. Well, I was a Cub, and imagine the scene. We're going on some trip, and it was to a ship. It was an old wooden battleship, and there was a couple, Alan and Jenny, and they were engaged to be married. And they said, right, Jenny's going to take one group, Alan's going to take the other. And I distinctly heard them whisper, who's going to get Chris? Anyway, they drew lots and Jenny lost. I was in Jenny's group, and we went round the ship. And what happened was I was asking, why is that? Why have they got battleships there? Why have they got cannons there? Why have they even got 4 cannons? Why did they put the cannonballs up there? Why is that? What? 45 minutes later, we got back together. Alan said to Jenny, how did it go? She said, so many questions. And that hasn't really gone away. Asking why and never being satisfied with the answer has kind of become a bit of a theme for my life. The other thing I just wanted to tell you about myself is that I ran a business for 19 years and ran myself into the ground, working 110 hours a week. But one gift that my father gave me was a love of the outdoors. He used to grow about 3,000 fuchsias and I helped him. And for that, I then got myself an allotment, in fact, 2. And any spare waking moment that I'm not working or doing something, I'm down the allotment. The reason why I tell you that is because people say to me with regards to speaking, it's really easy for you. You're naturally bubbly, you're outgoing. But for me, 65% of my life is spent in silence. I don't want to talk to anybody. 35% then that's left is I am me, like this, on. But I have to have periods and hours of not talking to anybody. So the reason why I tell you those 2 things is because part of this evening is about talking not just about public speaking, but you are the public speaker. You're at the center of this. So you need to understand you and look after you. And I'll explain more about that in a second. But for me, knowing me and having that peace and quiet and away time allows me to think. It gives me some downtime and space. And that's really important. So for any of you, if you want to be a better speaker and all you're doing is busy, busy, work, work, bang, bang, rush, rush, busy, busy, work, work, bang, bang, I would say you need to take some time out and just have that downtime to think, reflect and grow. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. So in the time that I've got, I wanted to cover classically 3 points. I know that's an unusual number you may never have heard of in Toastmasters before, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the skill of public speaking. I'm going to talk a little bit about speech evaluations, and I'm going to talk about competitions and specifically my experiences. The wonders of having a laptop is it becomes your lectern as well. I spend quite a lot of time talking to people about public speaking now. And it's always amazed me or fascinated me why people find public speaking difficult or troublesome or challenging is the word I like to use. And one thing is understanding. I'm not sure if you're particularly aware that people say, oh, well, if you can speak to people, you can public speak. It's just the same. And the problem is, it isn't. Conversational speech and public speaking are really different. Conversational speaking is much faster. Public speaking is slower. The numbers I often think of, this is about 170 words a minute. This is 100 to 120 words a minute. The pauses here, as soon as anyone pauses in speech, someone interrupts. And the pauses are measured in microseconds. In public speaking, nobody interrupts you. And people love to fill those silences with ums and ers or rush through the sentences. And there's other technical bits, but that understanding that technically they are different things. Now for me, I've learned public speaking, but like anyone who says, oh, I used to find it really difficult, I did. I trained originally as a physiotherapist. I went to university, and that's when I found my love/hate of public speaking. The blubbering, the sweaty hands, the sweaty pits, the blushing. I'm sure some of you will associate with that. And very occasionally now, I get it, but very, very occasionally. And that feeling now of speaking, I love it. But it's come through many years of working as a physio. Then I trained as a lecturer. I worked teaching for a number of years. And then I kind of had a break from physiotherapy. And I met my wife later in life. And after we discussed it, she decided the best thing I needed to do was to move to Tunbridge Wells to be with her. So, as most of these things, well, certainly in my marriage, what my wife wants, she gets. I moved to Tunbridge Wells. And that's when I discovered Toastmasters, because I wanted to be a professional speaker. And I thought, well, how can you learn to be a better speaker? I found Toastmasters. The club I went to only had 12 members. I was the 13th member when I arrived. Unlucky for some, I realise. But for the club, quick thing, actually. I don't know about you, if you're in business or if you have meetings at work. Now, if I ever go to a meeting, I have one strategy. People are often sort of presenting action points and jobs. And my strategy is, if I can go to a meeting and leave the meeting with exactly the same number of action points I went in with, or preferably less, that was a good meeting. Unfortunately, second week of being in Toastmasters, they said, oh, we're having the elections now. Who would like to be president? No one put their hand up. Who would like to be vice president of education? No one put their hand up. Who would like to do membership? You know the story. Well, I thought this club is going to go down the hill and I want this club. So I don't quite know what happened. They said, who would like to be in charge of PR? PR, anyone? And suddenly I found myself vice president of PR. 2 weeks later, I found myself also vice president of education. And 2 weeks after that, I found myself vice president of membership. And I did them and I worked hard at it. And basically I built the club up to about 36 members. Now, that's nothing to do with, oh, how great am I? I wanted that club. So it was kind of selfish. The point for spieling all of that is that with those 4 years in Toastmasters, with the 26 years before that, it's taken 30 years to get to today in terms of public speaking. The reason why I say that is if you give yourself a hard time, or you do a speech once, or you do a speech twice, and oh God, Coach, rubbish, God, can be so much better. 30 years of work. And for some of you, that's even more. And the thing is, I've got loads to learn. Public speaking is a skill. It's not an arrival. You don't get it overnight. You work at it. I've got a slide. I am nowhere near as technical as Eduardo. I saw your slides thinking, I'm going to blow you away with my PowerPoint presentation here now. I've got one slide to share with you. Let me see if it comes up. And this is my slide. Okay, I want you to just look at that, all right? And it's not going to take long to look at. I should have started the PowerPoint, I apologize. If you learn a skill, there are 4 stages to learning a skill. I'm just going to put this up for another minute, and then I'm going to take it down. I'm going to talk to each of those points. Right? Knowledge, practice, results, feedback. As you go round that cycle, more knowledge, more practice, more results, better feedback, more knowledge, practice, results, feedback. That's how you improve, whatever the skill. So let's take driving, for example. So what you do is you do some theory stuff first of all, you then spend some time with your instructor, they give you familiarity with the car, and then you start driving. Right, what you're going to do is learn to change gear. You break it down into the structure of that allow you then to practice that skill. Public speaking, we do something different. What we do is we stand you up in front of people and say, do it. Now, I'd be curious what results we'd get if we chose to do that with driving by getting the car up to speed on the motorway about 60 miles an hour, and then just handing the controls over to someone that's never been in charge of a car before and said, have a go, see how you get on. I would be interested. I'm going to stop that sharing now for a second. And you can then even say the same with regards to flying. Getting the plane up to 35,000 feet, have a go, see how you get on. There's a better way. And so I would challenge the way that we do it. And I think what's missing in Toastmasters is an opportunity to make people even better. And I think sometimes what we scarily do is scare people away. Because by putting people up, we've put them straight into the lion's den. But let's take it a step back. Let's think about each of you now. And I'm going to take you around that cycle. Knowledge, practice, results, feedback. Knowledge, practice, results, feedback. And where are you on that cycle? And how good a speaker do you want to be? So let's think about knowledge. How do you improve your knowledge of public speaking? Do you read any books? Eduardo said about some questions. If you've ever read this book, Lend Me Your Ears by Max Atkinson, that's a great book. There's a lot in there about rhetorical devices and so on with regards to questioning. It says all you need to know about making speeches and presentations. I absolutely disagree. It's not all, but there is an amazing variety of things, and you will learn a load if you read that. Have you watched many videos? Other world championship speeches, early bird speakers in London, they record all of their speeches. There's loads of American speeches. Do you improve your knowledge? Have you furthered your understanding and seen different styles outside your club? Speechcraft is another example that Toastmasters have. If you've never heard of it, it's a training program that you can put on at your club to teach people to do public speaking. I refer back to my previous comment, is the first thing that you do in Speechcraft is you stand the guests up and you give them a table topic. So let's just see that we've got them in the stressful situation, in the things that they don't like doing. We'll give them an impromptu speech and they don't know what they're doing. They've had no preparation. Now, for some people, they fly, and it depends on the situation. So I'm not entirely bashing it, but I just want you to think, are we doing this the best way? Is there a better way to teach people? Can we accelerate their learning? I think the answer is yes, but I'll let you make your decision as to how that might happen or whether you disagree with me, and feel free to. The Youth Leadership Programme is a programme as well that Toastmasters runs that you can put on at your club for school children. So I ran that at the beginning of the year, and I learned one powerful lesson. Children are not little adults. What happens is you give children something to do, you give adults something to do, and they'll sort of either make an excuse or they'll have a go or something like that. Kids just don't do it. So we had this perfect programme laid out, and we we're going to have 3 of the children doing speeches, and they turned up and we said, right, have you prepared your speech? No. Why not? I don't want to. Okay. Same answer for the second one, same answer for the third one. If you want a lesson in impromptu lesson planning, then go and teach children. It's wonderful. So on the hoof, pretty much 8 weeks in a row, we just made the lesson up when we got there. But I learned a huge amount about confidence, about changing feedback. I've structured things in completely different ways. Being in that situation, my knowledge of public speaking improved enormously through that experience. One little thing, obviously pathways has been the big change in Toastmasters. Now for the last 2 years, I am a bit of a pathways basher. It doesn't warm my heart. I don't particularly enjoy it. And one reason why is for those of you who previously had exposure to the Competent Communicator Manual, is the Competent Communicator Manual took you through stages of a speech. It took you through the various things that you could work on with regards to speech structure, organizing your speech, purpose, voice, vocal variety, gestures, prompts, visual aids, all those things which are crucial building blocks. It took you through and helped you build on those. And that doesn't happen as well in Pathways. So one thing that you might like to take away is go and Google, find a PDF of the Competent Communicator Manual. It's a rich source of data. But not only that, go and read books, watch videos, increase your knowledge. It's the top part of the puzzle. So let's drop round now into practice. So how much do you practice? The brilliant thing about Toastmasters is it's a safe environment. As you probably have at your club, and we say at our club, is where else can you go and you can practice a speech, and what the audience members all want is to be better speakers and for you to be a better speaker. That shared environment allows us all to then give feedback and to grow, and that's great. But is that the only place that you practice? I was working with a client this morning, and she got really nervous, and she's in sales and she does sales pitches. And what it turned out on closer questioning is that the only time she verbally practices everything with her sales pitch is in the client's briefing, is with the client. She reads it, she talks it through in her head, she runs through the PowerPoint presentation, she thinks what she's going to say, she writes it all down, makes a couple of notes. She never puts it all together and practices it. Now we do that at Toastmasters, but do you do that with all of your speeches? How often do you put it all together and practice it over and over and over again? So there's the challenge. Without practice, we can't improve. As I said, I was a physio, and there's a saying in physiotherapy that a clinician can have 20 years experience in 20 years clinical practice. But equally so, a clinician can have 20 years experience in 5 years of clinical practice. The difference is the latter has thought, reflected, read more widely, got data from a wider area, and challenged themselves. How many years have you been speaking? How many years experience have you got? You can get more, but limiting yourself to your club, limiting yourself to just Toastmasters, I would think is not the best way. There's a bigger world out there and you can engage with it. So if you want to be even better, then you need to practice elsewhere too, and different styles of speeches. The third thing, we've gone knowledge, practice on results. Now for you, when you do a speech, do you achieve what you want to with that speech? Because frequently people talk about the speech afterwards. How did it go? Oh, it didn't go as well as I wanted it to go. So I ask, oh, how did you want it to go? Well, I just wanted it to be better than that. How would it have been better? Oh, you know. No, I don't. I think it's just tightening up how you want things to be specifically. The word I hear over and over and over again in speaking is I want it to be better. I would scrap that, right? I would change the word better to different. So when they say it could have been better, it could have been different. Oh, it absolutely could have been different. Did it achieve what you wanted to? Oh, well, I think I spoke really well and I worked on it. Great, brilliant. Let's focus on the positives here. And this better word is a nebulous, it's rubbish, it doesn't mean anything. So I would get rid of it and I would challenge you just to be different. And each time, just be a bit more different in a direction that you want to move in, not the direction that is just this unfathomable nebulous. So with regards to the results, who do you see and what feedback do you get? And this ties back into practice, is if all you do is practice in your club and see the results of your club, then it's really limited. Because what happens, in my limited experience, is that people elevate themselves or model themselves as the best person in their club. Now, let's just say in the district, that best person is down here, and the best person in the district is up here. All you're ever going to aspire to is down here. And so you kind of need to get out. You need to go to other clubs. You need to watch videos. You need to watch the World Championship videos. And at the moment, that facility is available to you like it has never been before. There's people in our club that were in Uganda the other day, and it's just amazing. America, Greece, all over the world. And some of you may be doing that, and good for you, because you will grow as a result. The other thing I would challenge you in your results is just be kind to yourself. Evaluation to someone, you give them more commendations than you do recommendations. And yet when I hear people give themselves evaluations, they give themselves more recommendations than commendations. Why is it one rule for one person, one rule for the other? You are the same. Give yourself more commendations. And in fact, I'd say for every recommendation you give yourself 3 commendations. Because by practicing, you are getting better. And what you will know then is what you need to work on. I was talking to someone the other day, funny enough, and they were in their club and they gave a slightly different style of speech. And they're quite creative, this person. And the evaluation they got was quite harsh. And I wasn't there, but they related the story to me. And this is a lady who teaches evaluation workshops. And she said it wasn't a very good evaluation at all. It wasn't encouraging in any way, shape or form. And after a longer discussion, for her club was kind of limited in their style. And so I would encourage you again to fly, go to other clubs or leave Toastmasters. I'm not bashing Toastmasters. I'm just challenging it that it's not the be all and end all. But what's good is you've got that environment where you can get feedback, but don't stick with that all the time. Go and explore. The final point of that circle is about feedback. And that is actually my second point I wanted to bring out. So the first one was talk about public speaking as a skill. And the second point is to jump up and down about speech evaluations. If you notice the numbers on this call go down now, it'll be all the people from my club switching off and taking a break because they went, oh no, he's going on about speech evaluations again. This, you might think I bash Toastmasters quite a lot. Evaluations are the secret sauce of Toastmasters. The thing is, it's not where the emphasis is put. The emphasis is put on speaking. The emphasis, I believe, should be put on evaluations. You might ask why. I think because evaluations give you 3 things, the 3 best things about Toastmasters, and they are, it's a speech. To give that speech, you have to deconstruct a speech. And if you can deconstruct a speech, it makes you better at constructing speeches. And finally, it's an impromptu speech. So if anyone wants to do table topics, be a better speaker and give better evaluations or to understand how a speech is put together, just do evaluations. as many as you can. I'll talk to you in a little bit about how many I did for leading up to the contest. My love of evaluations didn't start in the club. It was at a district contest just over 2 years ago. And there's a guy called Chinkata Okpara won. He was a 7th speaker, so 7th evaluator that came out. And I just sat there and my jaw hit the floor and I thought, if I could ever give an evaluation like you, I will just think, oh, I've arrived. And I would say I'm probably about 90% there at the moment. But I've learned, and I've spent a lot of time in the last 2 years studying to get to that level and to win at district. The first person I would suggest you write down, if you don't know his name, is Freddie Daniels. If you know Freddie, then you may well have been on his workshop. And if you haven't, look up his workshop. It's exceptional evaluations, and it gives you a structure. And that's not, you won't get all the answers, but what you'll have is you'll have a working structure. And I went to Freddie's workshop a few times and watched videos. In fact, you can find bits of the workshop on YouTube, so you can go and Google it and find it on YouTube. I then went to Excalibur in London and looked at how they did evaluations. And there's another speaker there called Kat Kipling. And Kat, I competed against a few weeks ago, and she was my competition. If I could beat Kat, then again, that was another thing I thought I've done really well, because she is brilliant. And I can't rave enough about Kat. But then also, I then have been on other courses. See, I did Freddie's course, and then I studied and looked at videos, which I'll tell you a little bit about, but there's always something to learn. And I'm at the beginning of my evaluation journey, and so are you, wherever you are, there's always something to learn. I did an evaluation workshop as a participant 2 weeks ago, and I got some great feedback and things I need to work on. But I'm doing another evaluation workshop in 2 weeks' time with Lynn Cantor. So the one I did a few weeks ago was with Susan Hewitt, Hewitt. If you find Susan, or you wanted to be in touch with Susan, then contact me. Lynn Cantor, she's at Excalibur in London. Again, I'm bringing her to our club through Zoom. And at the moment, we've got a lot of people who are quite keen about evaluations. So get onto that bandwagon. There are people out there that you can learn from, and there are other evaluation workshops. And the final skill about evaluations that I don't think is sort of is brought out enough is it's a listening skill. The problem with Toastmasters, or a problem with Toastmasters, is that we're always talking about talking. And the skill in evaluations is shutting up and listening. Not only to what's said, as we learned from Eduardo and some of the tactics and skills and the things to make a speech good, but as came out in the chat, the interaction with the audience. There's no mention about pauses in there. There's no mention about emotional transitions. There's no mention about eye contact. There's no mention about gestures. They are the other things that truly make a speaker come alive and a speech make impact. As a famous pianist said, I think it was a Polish pianist who said that, people can play music, but the music is, or the emotion or whatever it is in the spaces between the notes. And it's the same with speaking. It's in the pauses. That's where a lot of the meaning comes from. So that's a little bit about evaluations. I've given you an easy ride. If we were together, I could talk hours about evaluations. So we've looked at the skill of public speaking and we've looked at evaluations. So for me, why am I here? I was invited along because I won the District 91 contest, both the table topics and the speech evaluation contest. And for me, competing has been, it's kind of always been the cherry on the top. It's been the thing that's pushed me the most. And the reason why I hesitated there, because I was about to say you must do it, and you mustn't do it if you don't want to. But if you want to push yourself and really be exposed to another standard, then definitely compete, because you'll be competing against the people in your club, and then in the area, and then in the division, and then in the district. So you're competing against the best of the best of the best each time. And what you notice is every contest you go to, the standard goes up, and you have got to up your game. And you don't get that just in your club. You go that ceiling effect that we talked about earlier. And it may be, though, that the person in your club is one of the highest. It doesn't matter. Still go out. Don't get stuck in that club, in that one environment. And even if you're not competing, go and observe the competitions. because you see that standard, you're exposed to it, and then you're inspired. Should that be someone you want to model yourself on and a standard you want to achieve? The other thing is it really works on your timing, because I've been disqualified in a division contest and it really bites. When just for those couple of seconds going over in a club environment, it's like ding-a-ling, out of time. Oh well, shame. In a contest, it really bites. And so you learn. I had a colleague in a division contest recently, and there's a whole gang of us thought that probably would have won, and she was 6 seconds over and got disqualified. The other thing is it improves your confidence no end, because what you're doing is, again, you're being put in front of a different audience, and the stakes are slightly higher. And so your anxiety gets less and less, your confidence goes up. And again, to do that, you have to research. So what did I do? I can summarize my talk in very, very short, in about 1 minute. I practiced. I did speech evaluation. So on the morning of the contest, I got both contests. I got up at 6 o'clock. And on the table topics one, I'd been thinking about it and practicing all week. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning. I set my computer up like this, and my colleague in the club unfolded about 3 sheets of A4 paper, and he threw a table topic at me. And I answered it, and then we debriefed for 15 seconds, and then we did the next one. And I did that without a break for 2 hours. So when it came to the contest, and that question was asked to me, and the question I got was, describe your idea of heaven. And if you watch it back, Dippin said, Chris Murphy, what's your idea of heaven? And I started to talk because I didn't even have to think about it. I knew pretty much every word of my answer. It was the easiest contest I've ever won, but I knew it because I practiced it and I'd thought about it. But what I did was, when I went out, is I looked around, I thought, what do I think about the world? What do I like here? I knew myself better. I didn't have a strategy. Some people have 5 stories they're going to shoehorn in. I just disagree with that entirely. It looks fake, it comes across as fake, and it doesn't win. With regards to the speech evaluation contest, I evaluate every speaker I see. So in the speech evaluation, so with the Humour speech contest, I'll evaluate all of those. In the international contest, I'll evaluate those. I got up at 6 o'clock of the morning of the contest, and my president, because we just picked a random video on YouTube, I watched it, we both watched it together, and 5 minutes after it ended, she would ring me and I would deliver my evaluation. And I did that for 15 different evaluations. So in 15 evaluations, let's say in a club, you maybe do 3, 4, 5 evaluations a year. That's 3 years worth of evaluations in 1 morning. I've got better at it because I do a lot of evaluations and I think about them. And you can do that. You just need to do more of them. And you need to model people who are really good at evaluations. And you need to understand the structure of speeches and delve into it more. It's not about delivery. Later on with people, you're talking about structure, content, impact, interaction with the audience, emotional. You need to have a wider descriptive range. Simple words score highly on the algorithm, but in terms of competitions, more complex words and more descriptive words score you more highly. So me. What about me in all of this? Hopefully, by sharing something of me and something of my journey, you've learned something. I've learned a huge amount. Toastmasters has changed my life. I was a physio before, I renovated the house, and now it's been about a 6-month journey of becoming a speaking mentor and a public speaking trainer. I do a lot of one-to-ones with people, I do group training and other things like that. And even being immersed in that world makes me a better speaker. Every single client I work with, I learn something. And with any skill, you know what I'm going to say. You need to practice it. You need to increase your knowledge of it. You need to get better results. To get better results, that's impacted by those two. And absolutely, you need better feedback. So I'm deeply thankful for Toastmasters. But on the other hand, I would happily say that the glaring gaps in it can be filled by you, but not within the club. And it's to throw that challenge out there. Is don't just sit with what you've got. You need to do more. I've written a speaking training with the lockdown with another colleague at our club. We've written an online course, 4 one-hour sessions. We've now delivered it 4 times. I finished one session about 15 minutes before coming on here. So that's 16 hours of teaching. And I've done lots of one-to-ones and so on and so forth, and do some stuff for free, but just work with people. The experience is there if you want to gain it. and it forces you to dig deeper in yourself, and you learn all sorts of other tricks and tactics. And as I said, the youth leadership program was great. So that's pretty much the end, except you're thinking, what on earth has this talk got to do with slugs? And rightly so, you may well think that. After this evening, I will be going down my allotment at 10 o'clock. You may ask why. People on my allotment, they have slugs. And what they do is throw down slug pellets, the blue slug pellets, to get rid of their slugs. And I don't like that for a few reasons. A, because I think it's lazy. But really, it also, one of the other key reasons, is it hurts the birds. The birds eat the dead slugs, and it harms the birds and kills the birds. So what's the problem? Why does it balk me about the people throwing down slug pellets? Well, what do slugs do? Slugs hide under bits of rockery and under bits of wood and so on and so forth. They also like damp conditions. They also like it when there's lots of food around. And they also like it when there's no predators. So the person who's throwing the slug pellets down isn't really thinking about why the slugs are there. They're just hoping for the quick fix. To control slugs takes a bit more work. What you need to do is you need to understand where they hide, and you have to make it less habitable for them. You have to address the causes. Get rid of all the plants that are just hanging around, the bits of leaves that you're leaving. Increase the predators. And so therefore the whole slug problem gets less and less by understanding the components of why slugs are there. The meaning for that, take what you want from that with regards to my talk. However, the other thing is that extra step, the extra hard work, is that after this talk, my wife and I are going down the allotment because we're going to bring in the big guns. It's the last night for a number of those slugs down there. I hope it's not the last night for you. I hope you've taken something from this talk. If you want to be a better speaker, then you already know how to. And if you needed a few extra tips, then hopefully I've given you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Chris. This was really good. And I loved the way you created an analogy over slugs.
Oh, I can happily create an analogy about my allotment anytime.
That was one of the questions. So how are the slugs doing?
The slugs, well, it's funny enough. The first night of going down with my wife, we spent an hour on one bed. And close your ears if you're particularly an animal lover. I love animals, but slugs are another league for me at the moment. So we killed over 300 slugs that night. We've killed about 3,500 now over about 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks. And I got 500 one night on my own. I will probably find about 60 tonight. They are tenacious little so-and-so. And you know, but there's not many now. I've kind of changed the whole layout of the allotment, but it's taken work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. So I've got a few questions. Before that, I loved the slide that you gave, you know, the knowledge, practice, results, feedback. It's very simple process to follow. And that's all we need to keep improving ourselves, isn't it? Making a better version of ourselves each time.
Absolutely.
And the second takeaway was being kind to yourself. That was the amazing takeaway, because we are very critical about ourselves and we try to sugarcoat what we tell others. So that's another good takeaway. Now, the questions. How do you deal with nerves?
Well, if anybody's ever listened to Simon Bucknell talk, Simon Bucknell got second in the World Championships in 2017. And people often use the word nerves and anxiety. And there's a few things to kind of bring clarity here. And Simon always talks about adrenaline. What you're experiencing is symptoms of adrenaline. The wondrous thing about your brain is that it's adapted to be out in the savannah, looking out for lions and so on. And you can run away and do things that involve physical things to take you to safety. And what adrenaline does is it reduces the blood supply to your hands and your feet. It increases your heart rate, increases your breathing rate. It makes you sweat, so it can raise your core temperature and so on and so forth. Basically, what it does is it gets you ready for action. And the perception is that you're in a stressful situation. But what you notice with people over and over again is the more they're exposed to it, understanding what they're going through and just saying, okay, It's adrenaline. Okay, it's there. Keep going. Then what happens is it gets better and better and better. There's a lady I was talking to this morning, and we were working through this sort of relaxation program and noticing her thoughts and challenging that. But if you start to challenge the thoughts, if you start to put yourself in that situation, understand it's just adrenaline. It's not any great sign about whether you're a speaker or a great speaker or not. It's just adrenaline. Your body thinks it's stressful, and just kind of get used to it and say, okay, it's there. Interestingly, if you look at a brain scan between people in a worrying situation and a situation of excitement, there isn't a great difference. So if not, then just relabel it so you're getting really excited. If I said to you now that your most famous person that you admire is standing outside the door that's closest to you, and in 15 seconds, they're going to walk through. Some of you, your heart rate has started to go up, your hands have got a little bit clammy, you're starting to breathe a little bit more. Oh, hang on, does that sound familiar? Excitement, anxiety.
Fantastic. How much practice did you do for your humorous speech?
Which one? I didn't enter a humorous speech contest. Well, today?
I guess this must be for the competition.
I didn't enter the humorous speech competition. I did at my club, and I got beaten at area contest by Stu Goodwin, who is on this call, who had a much better speech than me. So next year, I'm going to spend this year writing for the humorous speech and the international speech. And my goal is to win both of those at district next year.
Fantastic. So you've got, and there are many members in my club who are waiting to do that. So
great.
Watch out for us.
Will do.
Did you do public speaking prior to joining Toastmasters?
I was a university lecturer. So I did the occasional speech outside of that. I did a Women's Institute talk once on my specialism was chronic pain and management of chronic pain. And I was talking to this group about pain and things like that. And I equipped myself by listening to The Archers for about 6 weeks, which is a Radio 4 drama if you've never heard it. And I equipped myself by my topic and also listening to The Archers. The net result of that was it went quite well. I didn't get paid anything, but I'm still listening to The Archers 20 years later. That's my experience. And I kind of always got fascinated by speaking, but it's accelerated in the last 4 years, no end, by my experiences with Tunbridge Wells Speakers Club.
Fantastic. Do you recommend writing your speech word for word?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Very quickly then, I'll give you a tip of what I advise pretty much anyone now. If you're going to write a speech, decide, just get 5 post-it notes, 5 or 6 post-it notes or cards, write a couple of keywords on each one about topics you're going to talk about, stick a couple of notes underneath, stick them on the wall in front of you and start talking to that note. Start talking to that note, start talking to that one, and just start to verbalize what you're going to say. And then what you do as you go on is that you then sort of like clarify that, bring that one down, practice it a few times, and then go and find a friend and have a coffee with them and say, I'm thinking of giving a speech. I'm going to talk about this, and have a conversation. And Simon Buckner would tell you about that as well. I've had a number of chats with Simon. Go and have a coffee, go and have a conversation. And then what you do is they then ask questions back, and that brings clarity. And then what you can do is you can change it. Go and practice it again. And at that point, and only at that point, write something down digitally. And don't start writing text on slides. Write a few keynotes, and do not write your speech out word for word. And the reason why I say that is that will be a challenge to some people, and I realize that. But the reason is if it's not written down word for word, you can't get it wrong. What you then can do is you flow from bullet point to bullet point to bullet point, and you don't beat yourself up because you've missed something out. If there's nothing written down in a specific order, you can't get it wrong.
But do you find then your speech changes every time you present it?
Absolutely. And why shouldn't it? Because what will happen over time is you will notice the things that you really like. You will, with repetition, you will find sentences that just flow. If I said to most of the people on here, what I'd like you to do is work out how you brush your teeth of a night time, you don't know because you just do it. And it becomes like that. Words just flow because they become familiar and they become comfortable and they become automatic because they are ingrained in you. And that's what I would suggest.
And a follow-on to that question is, how can you best make a speech come across as spontaneous when it's been well prepared and rehearsed?
I think there's an interesting graph which I keep meaning to learn. And I can't remember the axes of it, but there is a point when you start speaking where it will be fluid or fluent, and then awkwardness goes up the more you practice. So it's time down here, and this is awkward and this is fluent, and it kind of flows down here, and the more you practice, the more awkward it gets, and then over time the more fluid it becomes, and it's down here again. But this is where you don't need notes. This is where it's in you. And that is the challenge again of Toastmasters, slightly less so with Pathways now, where you can repeat a speech, is by doing a speech once and then doing another speech and another speech, you learn the art of putting a speech together, but you don't truly learn the art of delivering a speech over a repeated period of time. Because a speech delivered here on that graph will be okay, but once you've internalized it and got over that awkward, it's automatic. And it's a bit like now, if I said to you, just tell me your name, tell me your surname, tell me your address, tell me your postcode, they just flow out. And that's what you're aiming for here. And that takes repetition. And if it's a business presentation that you do more frequently, then you'll achieve that. But one thing I didn't talk about tonight, which I could harp on a lot about, is authenticity. That's something I get very passionate about. And that makes things come across better if it comes from you and it is truly authentic and congruent with you.
Yeah, I guess it's the situation of unconscious competence, isn't it? You reach that stage.
Absolutely.
And I, the point you made about having an opportunity only once to speak in your club and not, but now because most of the clubs are online, you can actually go to all the clubs and keep speaking the same speech till you reach that fluidity stage.
Absolutely. And that is a fantastic suggestion. And I wish I'd thought of it, but we will make sure that is a great idea, because you can take that around, as you said. And it's an element of getting better is purely that practice, and also the feedback you get within that is really, really crucial.
And this answers one of the questions, that how do we encourage people to visit other clubs?
That's ultimately it'll be people's choice. And I think one of the reasons why people don't go is because they can't imagine the benefit, and telling people benefits or telling people isn't the way. It is that challenge, and I don't know is the honest answer. One thing that has encouraged some of our members is bringing people from other clubs to ours and bringing other speakers in and generally upping that standard. But ultimately it just goes back to people's choice, and some people are going to, and some people are really happy just to come along, do a speech now and then and just enjoy the club, and that's fine too. But if people want to really take that step up, then you need to do more, and the opportunities are there, and if people want to take them, I think they will. Yeah, but you can't force them.
Absolutely. One last question, we are out of time. Do you keep a record of what works and what you need to do different?
Oh, that's a great question. The honest answer is no. What works and what I do differently? What I do is I get good evaluations, and I talk to people afterwards. And because I give more evaluations to people generally then feed back to me. And I've got a few really trusted people in our club that will speak to me very candidly. And for me, I watch the videos of my speeches and I kind of review them, and then I think about what I've done well. But in terms of the recommendations, I generally, if someone's evaluating me, not necessarily in front of the club, I said, honestly, don't bother with commendations, just tell me what I can do better. And there's Stu Goodwin, who is on the call tonight. I have some really lively chats with Stu, and kind of that kind of I find that very useful. And I just want people to evaluate me. And the one thing I cannot stand is if someone's evaluating me saying, oh, or lots of speakers, and this is not me generally, people say, oh, what an amazing speaker, I can't find a recommendation. There's always a recommendation. There is always a recommendation. Absolutely. You can always do something more effectively to make it a more impactful speech. Not the word better, You can be more, have more impact. It could be funnier. You can be more dramatic. You can have better elocution. You can use more descriptive words. It's always something you can do differently.
And we needed some information about your online training. So what is the best way to reach out to you?
Oh, that's great. Best thing is if you email me. So it's Chris. My wife's phone is just making some strange noise over here. Let me just turn it off. I do apologize. I didn't realize it was there. My email address is chris@thespeakingmentor.co.uk, and that's obviously www.thespeakingmentor.co.uk.
Yeah, I've posted it for everyone so they can do it. Cool. Thank you so much.
No,
I really appreciate you taking this time and sharing this amazing workshop with us. There's some really good feedback that's come on the chat. You can go through it and look forward to having you back at the club and see you at the finals in the district contest next year.
Oh, I shall be there in the humorous. I'm going to make some notes now and in the next workshop, and that'll hopefully help me.
Great. Thank you.
Have a lovely, thank you very much.
So everyone, we'll be taking a 5-minute break now, and then we have the workshop from Gagan on comedy and humor. So 5 minutes. Indra, what's the time that we need to come back? At 21:06? So see you all at 21:06.
Thanks for that workshop, Chris.
Oh, no worries at all. It's good fun.
You've got a great background.
Oh no, it's really rubbish. I put up the little blue slide that you kindly sent me over, Seema, and I just disappear. And so all you're really seeing is this hand appear occasionally.
Well, Chris, this is my level of understanding. When I heard about the blue background, I thought they meant blue background for the slides, not for the background.
Oh, bless you.
I actually got a physical blue background.
No, you are a pro. Oh, crikey.
So are all your slides on our background?
Yes, I do.
Oh, bless you.
Oh.
When you said background, I thought you meant physical background. So, well, it's blue anyway.
I'm just what it is it's a bit like that feedback sandwich. What you do is you put the good thing first and the last, and you kind of put the thing that's a bit amateur in the middle, or the thing that needs to be improved. And for me, the feedback is background, background, background.
I was going to make that as my starting joke to say they've kept the worst for last.
No.
In case people leave, we won't mind.
We've given everyone a chance to take a break, come back all energized and recharge for the best slot. Because yours was also good, yeah?
I was going to request that, Seema. I was like, I think everyone's too tired.
So they need a laugh. So,
yeah.
You know, not much pressure on you.
No, nothing.
All good.
Chris, you did the whole thing standing. Such a good idea. I thought about that. But if you look around me, it looks like a grocery store. I have everything laid out in front of me. So I can't actually stand, but it's such a good idea to stand because you're...
that's the thing. I'm kind of like, you sort of...
Yeah.
Want to move around.
Yeah, like I can't contain myself in one place.
I find it tricky. In the contest, if you'd seen in my lounge, I had the computer on a ladder and the tile clamped to that, and the laptop was sitting on there, and I had 4 pictures printed out of audiences stuck over the ladder. So as I was looking, and I had a pair of eyes over the camera, so I was looking into that pair of eyes, But if I looked anywhere else, I just saw audience members. And then in front of me was a box, and then I had two things outside. So all I could do was this. But I could move around this area, and I could do this.
The things you have to do. Yeah.
I'd move one of the boxes for the evaluation contest, so I suddenly found myself back here. I didn't notice it until afterwards, but you constructed this whole ring.
I love the boxes idea. Yeah, my dad had he bought a garden trimmer, and it came with a big box. And for district conference, it was just perfect. So I just had a huge garden box on top of my table, and the laptop on top of that. And my dad said, "This is just an accident waiting to happen."
I so thought you were going to say your dad was on the ground with the trimmer, and if you got near him, he started it. And I thought, whew, that's really precious.
My mom, so with my mom, you have to tell her, "Hey, mom, I'm doing a workshop," which also means you cannot come into the room. Okay, don't worry. And then when you're doing the workshop, she'll come in and say, "Hey, do you want to eat something?" I'm like, "Mom, I told you not to." She goes, "No, but I'm asking you for food. It's different to me disturbing you."
I think, Martin, were you saying something?
No, yeah, I was just wanted to say, personally, I didn't mind your background of the kitchen. It all looks very nice. The acoustics where you are very good. And obviously your ability to move around where you are is good as well, from the point of view of standing.
I've got a work surface here.
Yes,
yeah. Here. I've got the thing here. I haven't got anything back here, but I can see myself. So I know I don't want to go any further back than that.
Yeah.
So it's
it all worked. I thought it all worked quite nicely. Great.
Siva, just a quick question.
I enjoyed it. I was shut now. I get very excited. It's like,
Can you hear me, Siva?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Question: will I still get 45 minutes?
right.
Yes, you'll
Okay.
still get 45 minutes.
Because I don't have a timesheet, but I just have numbers going 5, 10, 15. Yeah.
So Indra is the timer. You need to pin him before you start so you can see him.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indra, you need to
Can I-
tell us when we are ready. Are we ready to start? It's 21:07.
That
I
sounded
can't
very
hear you.
that sounded very military like, Seema. 21:07 and we're ready to start, everyone. Roger that.
Indra, shall we start?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So welcome back to the last session. We have saved the best for the last. So hope you have all had your comfort break and now you're ready to listen and laugh your lungs out. Let me give you a brief introduction on Gagan. Gagan has been a Toastmaster member for almost 7 years, and he served as a president of London Athenians and is currently the area director for Division B6. He leads a portfolio lifestyle with a career as head of marketing, alongside his passion for coaching and training entrepreneurs. Humour was an escape from the ordinary for Gagan, but he has grown it into a bigger adventure. He recently challenged himself to deliver a stand-up routine in front of 400 people at the comedy club. And if it wasn't difficult enough, he also recently delivered a stand-up routine in front of his girlfriend's family. That's an amazing challenge, Gagan. With a session titled, How to Be Funny, inviting Gagan to introduce us to our humorous bones. Gagan.
Thank you, Seema. With that, I just wanted everyone to hear the introduction. Now I must be leaving. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, to this workshop on how to be funny. How is everyone doing through this COVID-19 period? Everyone's muted, so I hope everyone's speaking in their minds and I can hear you. I have had probably the worst time in the last couple of months. I was furloughed for 2 months, and that meant I had to stay home. And the only problem with that is I have an Indian family. And that's an issue. And that's an issue because I do not get along with my dad. My dad has this habit of saying, no matter what you say to my dad, it's just not enough for him. when you say something to him, he'll say, it's nothing. And he'll just keep saying that again and again. And it's so bloody annoying. The other day I was telling my dad, hey, Dad, I've just bought a new car. And he said, it's nothing. Deepa's son had a car when he was just 17. And I said to my dad, hey, Dad, I've got a new job. It's nothing. Raju's son gets a new job every 3 months. And I got so tired. I told my dad, Dad, I give up on you. I just cannot communicate with you anymore. And my dad looked at me and he said, son, it's nothing. People all around the world give up all the time. That's my dad for you. And my sister is a police officer, which makes things even worse for me, being in the house in the same place as everyone else, because my sister is a police officer, so she watches a lot of crime documentaries. And what that means is she doesn't care where you are. Everything's a crime scene for her. The other day, for example, I just left my cereal bowl on the table, and my sister, being a police officer, had to make such a big deal about it. In front of my whole family, she picked up this bowl and just said, on this crime scene, someone has left this cereal bowl. The fingerprints on this bowl will suggest it belongs to a male between 4 and 6 feet, 6 feet tall. And judging by this bowl, it looks like this man had habits of being a procrastinator, or he grew up in a family where he was very privileged, so he can just leave the bowl and walk away. Welcome to my family. And that's how things have been for me. Things have not been easy for me. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, I cannot wait to share this workshop with you today. Let me tell you a little bit about the scope of this workshop and what I have in mind for everyone today. When I first got into stand-up comedy / I was thinking about adding more humor into my speech, I attended a lot of workshops. And what absolutely scared me was the amount of experts in this field. And all of them use very big words, very big terminology and analogies that I just don't understand. And that is an issue with someone who's too good, because they forget where they started sometimes. Have you met someone who's been in Toastmasters for like a decade? And if you ask them, how did you deliver your icebreaker? They break it down into like 40 different tools you can use, when they probably didn't do that. So what I would like to do is put away the dictionary of stand-up comedy and focus on very simple tools. And I repeat, very simple tools that we can use. And this is a public announcement. We will not do anything complicated, and you will not become a stand-up comedian. So with that said, let's jump into today's workshop. And I just want to share my screen with you so I can tell you a little bit about myself and where I come from. So as Seema mentioned, something that was on my bucket list was to deliver a stand-up comedy routine in front of a large audience. So I challenged myself to visit the Comedy Store on 31st December 2020. I forget what year we're in, last year, in December. So the last day of last year, I was in the Comedy Store. It was a packed room in front of 400 people. I delivered a stand-up routine. And as if that wasn't difficult, I had to then, 2 months later, stand in front of a room full of people, including someone I was coaching at that time, my girlfriend, her mom, and her brother. And this was like the second time they were seeing me. In some ways, that was more difficult than doing the packed Comedy Store. It's really difficult to please someone by doing a stand-up comedy routine for the first time. But here we were. And more recently, I just facilitated the district comedy humorous international contest. That's where we were recently. So why comedy? Why is comedy so important? Well, it makes us more productive. It makes us more trusting. Whenever we use comedy in our language, it tells the other person to be at ease, and it relieves stress. In times like this, we need people to add a little bit of comedy into whatever they do, just to, tell people to take it easy. It also helps build rapport. When you meet someone the first time, You can just use a little bit of comedy, and I will explain what comedy is later, to just tell them that you don't take life that seriously. It helps lighten the mood, and overall, it makes you a likable person. And on this note, one of the things I realized is a lot of the times, the speakers that I look up to, and maybe the speakers that you look up to, they're not the most academic people, but they might be the funniest people. So for example, Les Brown is a speaker that I look up to. He's a motivational speaker, but he adds elements of humor into his speech to make his speeches more impactful. And I'm not going to him for stand-up comedy, but all I need from him is to make it a little funnier than just going through 1,000 tools that you can use to become a more effective leader. So some of the things we're going to cover in this workshop is, where do jokes come from? How can you check your eligibility for being funny, i.e., where is that damn funny bone located? And what makes boring people laugh? And by boring, I don't mean every boring person, but some of them you can revive them. It takes a bit of work, but some people you can turn them back around. And other questions that you don't even care about at all, but I'm going to answer them anyway because I have 45 minutes. So what do you need? You need a keyboard and some fingers to go with that, because you will be taking part in this interactive session. You need a relaxed mood. Just relax. I will not be asking anyone to deliver a comedy routine or come up on stage and virtual stage and share anything. I just want everyone to relax, because when you're relaxed, I think we've come up with the best material. And the last thing I'm going to ask here is use no filter. What do I mean by that? By filter, I don't mean this filter that we've all been wearing. No, I mean just when you're coming up with jokes, elements of humor, you don't want to censor yourself at that point. Censorship comes right at the end when you can, when you look at the audience and you go, oh, actually, this might not be appropriate. Making your mama jokes in Toastmasters might not be appropriate, and that's when you take a step back. But until then, you can do anything with writing. So in this workshop, I'm going to keep it very simple, and we're going to cover three things. We're going to cover just one formula. There is only one formula that I would like to take away from this workshop. I'm going to be covering just one tool, and there are a lot of tools in comedy, which is what I was bombarded with when I first started looking into comedy. And everyone's like, if only you use this tool, you could be a really good comedian. And I didn't understand the basics. So it's like I'm training for an Ironman, and people are talking about carbon fiber bikes. It's 400 grams lighter than every other bike. And if you only spend 10,000 pounds, you can be 400 grams lighter. And you look at this person and you go, if you only rode your bike once a month, you could be 400 grams lighter. And it's the same thing in comedy. You can have all the tools, or you can just learn the basic principles that will take you further. And the last thing is, I'm going to share with you how to practice comedy, how to effectively bring it into Toastmasters, into your speeches. So if you're at level 7, you can take it to level 8. That's my only scope for this workshop. So this is a joke that I recently heard, and I really connected with this. The hardest part about being a vegan is having to wake up at 5 a.m. to milk all the almonds. For all the vegan people in the audience, this will be funny. And if you know anything about vegans, you know about the almond milk. And the joke there is, who knows how do you milk almonds? We know how to milk cows, and that's the joke. But at this point, I want to ask you a question, and this is where you start using the chat feature. What is the most recent joke that you heard that you really connected with? You said, wow, that was funny. Do you remember a joke that was like a one-liner joke, or someone said something you were like, yeah, that was funny? Well, use the chat feature now and type that out. Let's see, what is a funny joke for you? Take a minute and think about it. What is funny for you?
Nobody's chatting.
While you think about that, I'm going to just be talking about this, which is the formula that I thought was the best way to come up with humor and adding a little bit of comedy into your speech. And we'll be talking about this today, which is premise and tag. Now, you might have heard of the setup and the punchline. The reason I would change the word to tag is because punchline, I thought, was almost felt magical to me.
Want to find your kids, switch off your Wi-Fi.
Sorry? Is everything okay?
Carry on, Gagan.
Oh, sorry. I thought I went offline and I was just talking to myself. I was like, wow, this would be an interesting workshop. So I was just, back to this slide where we're talking about information and premise and tag. So I'm just going to stop here for 1 second and just look at the comments here. Perfect. So when we're thinking about humor, I want, for this workshop at least, for everyone to take a step back and don't try to force yourself to be funny. That's one of the mistakes I think that I made in the beginning, and I've seen a lot of people do this, which is they're trying to look for the funny. Where is the comedy? Comedy comes from, a lot of the time, from miseries in life, things that absolutely frustrates you, things that you're annoyed about, you know, waiting in the queues, that crying baby in the airplane seat behind you, those things that really frustrate you. That's where comedy is. That's where fun is. And you can look at that and you can work with that to bring something out of that. Like, you can take that lemon and you can squeeze it to find humor within that. So I'm going to jump back into the slide. I nearly had a mini heart attack. I thought I lost everyone. I was like, I need to check this one out. So we have the premise, which is the information, and we have the afterthought. What do we mean by that? If you've ever heard someone use a line, "That's what she said," that's what an afterthought is. An afterthought is nothing more than someone has shared some information with you, and in your mind, you have made a comment. And what's funny is if you share that comment with other people, it becomes funny. Two people are talking about, "My car is bigger than yours." And one of them turns around and says, "That's what she said." Okay, that's very funny because that is a thought you have in your mind, but here you're sharing an afterthought, a thought you had after some information was shared. So how can we use this information? And this is where I'd like to ask Komal to jump in with me. Komal, are you here? Can I get you on audio? Komal?
Hi, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Komal, can you play an audio with me so you can work with me?
Yeah, sure. What am I doing?
I'm full screen on my laptop, so I can't actually see behind the screen. So, so for a premise, I'm going to jump to spreadsheet, and Komal's helping me out with this. And I've got a topic here. So how do you come up with topic? Let's just jump back into the slide. So premise is built of three things. It's your topic, it's your association, and it's your attitude. So what is a topic? A topic is the bigger tree. It's the bigger theme. We're using the process of telling the world that we're not just talking about anything. We're picking something slightly specific, like a topic, for example, could be anything, an inanimate object. Like, for example, I have a bowl here. I have a dictionary here. I can pick these things and talk about them. It could be a person. You could be roasting someone in authority. People like Trump gets roasted a lot of time. It could be an event. You might have gone to a seminar or a music concert and you want to talk about that, or any major event that's happened in life, you can talk about that. A place, a location, or an organization. So for this example, we're going to use Toastmasters, and this is where I would like everyone to join in with me, because I would be asking everyone to use the chat feature and flood that with any thoughts that you have at the top of your mind. So don't worry about filtering at this point. We're just looking for ideas, and we're going to generate lots of them, and Komal's going to help me by putting them into a spreadsheet. So the topic we have chosen, we've gone with an organization, which is Toastmasters. So we know when we're in Toastmasters, we're talking about Toastmasters. So the next thing is association. And association is nothing more than specific things that happen within that topic. And we're now using the filtering process to say, what is it in Toastmasters? What are the different events that happen within Toastmasters that might surprise you, that might be funny for you, that might either frustrate you, or they're really unique and they stand out for you? So what are some of those things? And I'm just going to look at the chat now. This is the part where everyone starts typing. So some of the things I can think of at the top of my head is the GE report. I sometimes find them too long. Or one of the things that happens quite often is when a speaker starts speaking and they say, I'm only going to speak for 1 minute. Has that ever happened to you, when someone said, I'm only going to take 1 minute, and they take an hour later on? So think about some of these associations. What are some of these things that happen within Toastmaster? And we're not looking for funny, we're just looking for what are some things that stand out for you. So we have meeting guests. We have the timer reports lacks their own timing. Yeah, and timer doesn't time themselves. That's funny in itself, but we're not looking for funny. We're just looking for different events that happen in Toastmasters that really stand out for you. Traveling to Toastmasters. Zoom speeches freezing during awkward bits. Icebreakers, yeah, icebreaker is a very good one. Yeah, a GE says that, it won't take, it'll only take 10 minutes, and half an hour later they say, I will carry on despite what the timekeeper says. When you are told what the Zoom background screen you must use. Yes, okay, this wasn't the part where you have a go at me. This is the part where you think of the different Toastmaster scenarios. And Toastmaster banners falling down in the middle of a speech. Yeah, so now we're starting to think about different things that you might have seen that were unique, that stood out for you. And let's think a little bit more, so Komal has something to go by. What about the president delivering the same bloody speech opening every time? If you're someone who attends Toastmasters Club quite a lot, you'll notice that some presidents love repeating the same speech, and they always do it in a very profound way. Like, Ralph Smedley said this, and you're like, I've heard this. At least change the tone, do something. Shaking hands when you hand over to the next speaker. Yeah, so shaking hands, that could be an element of humor. So we have a few things here, and I can see that Komal's written them down here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Thank you, Komal. And the next thing here is, so we have associations. So now we're thinking about, and you can keep typing in, by the way. We're thinking about different events that happen within Toastmasters, right? So we have the topic, that's Toastmasters, different events that happen. And by the way, we're not looking for funny at this point. All we're looking for is different things that happen. And the next thing is attitude. So we have the topic, we have the association, now we have the attitude, which is the way we look at things. You might have heard that saying, the way you look at things changes the things you look at. Now we're going, when you look at that, what attitude are you taking? Are you annoyed? Is it the hardest thing you've done in Toastmasters? Is it weird? Is it strange? Is it scary? And you're picking one of those attitudes, and then you're connecting it back to these things. So meeting a guest, what attitude would you say that is? Would you say that's hard? Is it weird? Is it strange? I would say it's maybe meeting a guest. It could be, it's up to you what you pick, but Komal, I can't see my chat at the moment, so if you can. Okay, scary for guests, exactly. So yeah, so meeting a guest could be scary, for example. GE normally say they won't last. Okay, GE overrunning. What attitude would you pick for that? A GE overrunning? Would you say that's strange? Would you say that's annoying? I think that's annoying when a GE, the person who's come from outside, is supposed to respect what we're doing and they don't. So Komal, that one's annoying. Meeting members or listening to their personal journeys. Okay, so now we know how we feel about that, but we're picking an attitude which is the opposite. So we're not thinking it's the greatest thing. And one of the things I want to mention here is comedy doesn't happen in the middle. So if you say, oh, this was okay, that's not comedy. Comedy is when you go to the extremes. So whatever your attitude is, amplify that. So if you said something kind of bothered me, 10x that and say, you know what, this absolutely disgusted me. This absolutely annoyed me, and amplify that so you feel it inside. And that's where the contrast comes in, because then you take something normal and you make it absolutely extreme on the other end. So which one would you pick for an icebreaker? Seeing an icebreaker for the first time. Let's go with stupid. Let's go with stupid. You saw an icebreaker and it was stupid. Yeah. And we're not filtering at this stage. So most of the time you do this by yourself. So try not to filter yourself here. The timer report lacks their own timing. The timer report lacks their own timing. So let's go weird with this one. Yeah, it's weird. And Zoom speeches freezing during awkward bits. How does that make you feel? Which attitude would you pick? A Zoom meeting freezing in the middle? Which attitude would you pick for this one? Frustrated. Yeah, let's go with that one. And then we have opening the meeting with a hammer. Yeah, that is, I'm going to wait for someone in the audience to say, what do you think, what attitude would you pick for that? That is strange. That is absolutely strange. It feels almost archaic when something like that happens. When you're told what Zoom background screen you must use. I didn't think you'd add that, Komal, but okay, that was an attack to me as a comedian. Fine, we'll keep that here. When I'm told what Zoom background to use and I don't do it, what attitude would you say there? Ignorance? Maybe? And we're going to skip a few here. And Hawk Master's role. We have Hawk Master's role. What is that? That is just, what would you say for that? When you go to a club and they have a role and you've never seen it, you've never heard of the role, and you're like, what is that? So what attitude would you pick for that? Yeah. Hard? It could be hard, actually. Curiosity? Which one? Let's pick something we haven't picked before. So, so the thing about curiosity is, curiosity would be somewhere in the middle. Again, creative. These are nice words, but they're in the middle. You're trying to be too nice. Don't be nice here. This is not that stage where you're very nice. Made up. Again, you're in the middle. Uncomfortable slightly. We need an extreme. We need something extreme. Everyone's thinking in the middle. Try not to filter yourself. What in the tragic? Tragic. That's the one, Komal. I didn't say tragic. So Hawkmaster role, we can have tragic for this one. Can we try that? Tragic. Okay. So now we've started with, just to remind you, we picked a topic, a bigger topic, which was Toastmasters. We filtered down to a few events where we're looking at what happens in Toastmasters. And then we picked an attitude to look at the same event, but from a different lens. And now we're looking at a tag. What is a tag? A tag is nothing more than an afterthought. So now we're looking at some afterthoughts, and how does that make you feel? And again, try not to filter yourself at this stage. Meeting a guest is scary. We know it's scary for the guest, but we could switch that to say it's scary for us. So what is an afterthought when you meet a scary guest, for example? Yeah, Paulina said one for Hawkmaster. So a tag could be Hawkmaster doesn't remember the answer to his own question. That's a good tag. What's an afterthought? Yeah, and I got a private message here saying, meeting a guest, an attitude is scary. What if you look at a guest and a guest tells you, you go to a club and a guest tells you, you're not my type. What if that happens? Surprised about the name matching the face? Yes, that is a good one, Ram. So we're going to, Komal, are you on this one? So if you Alt Enter, you go to the next line and you can just add some of these. So that's Option Enter, Alt Enter on Mac. Yeah, so we're thinking about how does that make you feel? It's a thought you have in your head, but now we're just writing it down. So we'll come up with a few. Meeting a guest, it's scary. How does that make you feel?
I've typed in that one. You can get out that stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay, so the next one is general evaluator normally says it's annoying when a general evaluator does that. General evaluator running over time. What's the afterthought? What is the thought that's running inside your head when that happens? It's annoying. Does that person think they're the, do they think they're present? I want to go home. Yes, exactly. So now we're thinking, I want to go home. Stop. So both of those are very good. So the afterthought in our brain that's going on. Yeah, just stop. Komal, do you know how to add another line? So.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's fine. Because we have the same, we have a few options for the same one. So the idea here is to come up with about 15 tags for each of them. Yeah, and we won't have time to do it in this workshop, but ideally you want to come with a lot of tags, which is, what am I thinking? What is an extreme thought that is going through my head? And you're listening closely. For dinner's sake. Yes, that's a good one as well. A GE running over time. You're saying, for dinner's sake, let me go home. The one I usually get is, who do you think you are? How special do you think you are? Yeah, any others? Try to think a little bit more about what's an extreme thought you could have in your head. And we have 3 here. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is listening to a stupid icebreaker. How does that make you feel? A stupid icebreaker. For me, I've heard an icebreaker where someone was absolutely arrogant. And I think they started the icebreaker by saying, I'm above this icebreaker. No, I'm just paraphrasing, but they said, I'm too above this. Yeah. How boring can your life be? So Komal, I got one, which is, how boring can your life be for that one? A stupid icebreaker. Okay, that's just a tag, but it's already made me laugh because I have heard icebreakers where someone just goes, this is my name, and I grew up in Midlands, and 30 years later, I'm still in Midlands. I grew up in the same house. I still live there. I have 3 meals a day, and someone forced me to join Toastmaster, and here I am. So that's a really good tag. And the timers report lack their own timing. Should have bought ice pick. Okay, so I think, Komal, you can judge which one's for which, but I think some of these are still for the last one. Okay, and while Komal is getting that one, we're moving on to the next one, which is the timekeeper report just lacks their own timing. And especially when a timekeeper, because no one's timing a timekeeper, that is grounds for comedy, because I have seen timekeepers come up on stage and absolutely take their longest. And this one time someone evaluated all their table topic speeches. So what is the tag here? How can we summarize that thought in one line? Buy a watch. Someone said get a stopwatch. Right. So what is the thought you have when someone does that? The timer reports their own. What is the afterthought? What does your brain think when that happens? They got away with that one. That's the one I think of. They just got away with it. Yeah, and I think we'll pick that one as well, which is opening the meeting. Yeah, and I got a private one, which is on the timer one, which is go back to school and learn how to read time. Like, geez, just go back to school and learn how to read time. That's a good one for a timer report. And okay, so now we're moving on to the last one while Komal is copying some of these. Okay, opening the meeting with a hammer. This is when you go to one of those strange meetings and someone goes, the meeting is about to be adjourned. And they have a hammer and, you know, they're like wearing the wig and everything. What's the thought you're having inside your head? Have I traveled back in time? Because it literally feels like America in 1940s. That's my first thought, was like, have I traveled back in time? What just happened? Auction? Yeah, wrong place. Iranga said that. I got another private one, which is, where's your red jacket? Yeah. And, you know, are we traveling back in time? So, okay, so now we have a few really good tags. This will not be enough because, again, we're not looking for funny at this stage, but all we're looking for is to generate a lot of ideas about an extreme thought that we might have. Yeah. And so, yeah, and that's a good one. Simon said, you're in the wrong Toastmaster. Maybe you feel like you're in the wrong place and you need to wear a red coat. So you can see an example of some afterthoughts, just some thoughts we have based on a situation. And this applies anywhere. So the topic could be you jumping on a bus. Association would be a young person jumping on the bus after you, and the attitude could be stupid, annoying, or something, and then you're coming up with your thoughts. What do you think of that? And we all do this, we just don't write them down. And this is grounds for comedy, absolute ground for comedy. And once we have a few tags, ideally you want to generate as many of them as possible, and you just list them all down. And now what we do is now we start putting them together into a joke. So again, over to you, audience. Let's pick the one where we have a lot of options. And I would like you to type the whole thing as you think of it. Let's start from the bottom, just because that's the one we're looking at right now. Opening meeting with a hammer. And that's strange. Are we in the court of law? Okay, how can we convert that into a joke? Well, think about starting a line like, it is strange. Then you have the topic and association, because. So you might say, it is so strange that, you know, someone would open a meeting with a hammer. Are we in the court of law? And already you have a setup and a tag, and that's working. So I might say something like, how do we bring some of this together? This would only happen in a club in Hammersmith. Yeah. So the joke would be, it's strange to see. Komal, can you type this one? Just because I think it'd be really loud if I type it.
Yeah, sure, I'll do it.
So it's just it's really strange to see someone opening a meeting with a hammer. Are we in the court of law? And then, so you've used the information and you've used the tag and the follow, and you can use a tag along, which is you have one tag and then you have another tag, which is Shivangi's mentioned in the chat. This would only happen in a club in Hammersmith. So not only do we have a setup, the premise and the tag, but we have a tag along, which is another tag. So sometimes you can combine this together. Yeah, you have to exit out of the cell. So now you see what we're doing is we have the premise and the tag, but we're generating more tags off the back of that. And you can carry on. And this is how comedy routines generate.
No, Gagan, that was you have to get out the cell so I can type.
I have to get out of the cell. Oh, that was a funny joke. That is funny. Okay, can you type now?
Yeah.
So we have, now you have to remember the whole joke. And we have a few tags there. Okay, so that would be one joke. Would you stop at one joke? Just like creating tags, you would put some of these together and then you go to the next thing. And you might generate, you need a minimum of 4 jokes at the back of these things. So you will create one joke and you have a tag, you have the association, and you have the attitude. And then you'll go back and use another one of those tags. So the red coat might be a joke. So I think Komal might just copy and paste half of the line, but it's pretty much the same, which is, it's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. You know, am I in the wrong Toastmaster? What was the joke? Is he going to hammer his own fingers? Yeah, that's funny. That is funny. It's strange to see someone opening a meeting with a hammer. Is a poor guy going to hammer his own fingers? That's funny. Yeah. What else can you think of? So now I want you to use the chat and think of the combinations you can come up with. And Komal, I think you have some ready-made jokes here. Isn't it strange that someone would open a meeting with a hammer? I hope I'm not going to get a life sentence. Boom. That's a joke. Yeah. Anything else that you can think of off the back of this? And you've got the foundation to make a joke here. Yeah. So it's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. I forgot we were in Hammersmith. Shivangi's got a good one here, which is, it's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. But I think they nailed it. So that's a really good one. Hopefully he's not going to screw it up. And you know, you can see how this is coming along. You go, it's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. Hopefully he's not going to screw it up. It's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. Is it an IKEA night? This is getting funny. Okay. Komal, should we stop here? I think you're running out of space.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot here.
Isn't it strange that someone would open a meeting with a hammer? I never saw that coming. Okay, I think we can stop with that one. Right, so you get the idea. And this is the first version of your joke. And you come up with a few of these. And the only thing I would ask Komal to do now is, Komal, could you pick your best joke out of those and just put an A in front of it? So just put an A dot in front of it, so we know that's your favorite joke. Yeah. So now although I'm tempted to speak, sneak some walnut. I missed that one. That's really funny. Yeah. Okay, so you might go A, B, C, D. So you might go, you know what? This is my favorite one. This is my second favorite. And the favorite one is the one you then take to the next level. What is the next level? The next level is you take it to the club and you deliver it. And unfortunately, we won't have time to go through the rest of them. But just with that one, you can see how we use the topic, we use the association to come up with ideas, we use an attitude. By combining just those 3 things, you start generating lots of jokes. And you have something to get started with. I'm going to jump back into the slides here. Yeah, I wish we had longer to just keep developing these jokes. I'm having a lot of fun, but let's jump back into this and see what we're doing. Okay, what if I bomb? What if you deliver a joke and you bomb? Bomb just means that you deliver a joke and no one laughs. What if that happens? That's when you use your next set of jokes. So the way it works in comedy is you might deliver a joke and it might not work. So you have a few options. Either you can leave an awkward, very long pause, telling the audience that you don't know what you're doing, or you can just go in with the next joke and the next joke and the next joke, And what happens is sometimes the audience is not used to your kind of laughter, your kind of joke. And by going with the second and the third, they quickly go, oh, this is what this person's about. That's their viewpoint. We have different kind of comedians. My favorites are what, like they use black humor. They're the black comedians. They're my favorite kind of humor. And if someone else was to use that humor, it'll take a second for me to adjust to that. And another thing you can do is if you think you've delivered a joke and no one laughs, try to sandwich your jokes in the middle. So you open with your most funniest jokes, things you might have tried before, and you close with the funniest jokes. And in the middle, you interlude some new jokes and elements. And your A's should definitely make people laugh. So Komal picked one here, and that should make people laugh a lot. And your B's are the jokes that are almost there, but you just need a different tag. And if a joke doesn't work, what you might do is go back and change the attitude. So we talked about attitude earlier, and we said, it's strange to see someone opening the meeting with a hammer. You might change that. If the joke isn't working, but you know there's something there, you might change that to, it's annoying to see someone open a meeting with a hammer. And that changes the whole meaning. You might say, it's stupid to see someone opening the meeting, and you can generate more elements that way. Okay, is everyone with me so far? Cool. So how do you practice humor? This might seem familiar to you because I stole it straight out of Chris's workshop a few minutes ago. So you talked about knowledge, practice, result, and feedback. And I've developed something similar, which is, how do you practice? You build something. What does building means? Building means you put your premise and your tag together. You pick a topic, you pick an association, you go a little bit into the different association. So we looked at Toastmaster, we looked at different events that happen within Toastmasters. And then we looked at the tag. How does that make me feel? How do I actually think if I didn't filter myself? And you write those down. And that makes the joke by combining those together. And you take it out. The only way you're going to know if a joke works is if you take it out, you share it with your friends, you share it in Toastmaster Club, and you learn from that. So you bring that feedback back to your sheet, and whatever work you keep, you're looking at laughs per minute. You're looking at how many people are laughing, and you take it from there. So final thing on here is, how do you incorporate humor into your speeches? Well, the only thing I was thinking of for Toastmasters was you can use different voices. So you can use accents, you can use characters, or you could act things out. So whatever, if your cycle is funny, you can act that cycle out. You can whatever your joke was. So we're talking about the hammer thing. You can make the sound of the hammer, or you can bring a prop with you that makes the sound of that hammer. You can add in the character. So I'm thinking Florian Bay for some reason. I always think of him as very like structured in the way he runs things. I can personify him on stage by saying, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to start this meeting on time, and then we're going to do this. And you can act it out. So I can act out what I think Florian Bay would do. As long as he's not in the room, he might be offended slightly, which is fine. It's humor. Okay, and if Seema allows, and we have a couple of minutes, we can jump into Q&As. I'm just going to stop sharing.
I'm waiting for questions to come through, but in the meanwhile, a question for you is, when you did the stand-up act in front of 400 members,
yes,
how did you follow through the same process for that?
Yes, I did. And the reason I was thinking about this workshop was because I remember how hard I was trying to follow some of these workshops, and everyone keeps using these big jargons and all these different tools, which for me was just cherry on top. The basic is just list building. You're observing things that happen around you, and you're building a list of ideas. And to be honest, I have people around me, my family, my sister, my girlfriend, and what I'll do is I'll usually, if I'm running short on time, I will share the jokes with them, and they'll provide the perspective. and they will look at the speech and they'll maybe edit that. Something might not be funny, something might be too over the line, and they will edit that and they will help me with the process. And this is not to say, you know, I'm not funny or you're not funny. It's just, we just need more perspectives. So if you didn't have time, I hope that answers your question, Seema.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are overrunning, so I'll just ask one more question. That is, how do you turn a one-liner into making a funny story?
Really good question. And unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to do this one today, but I was using the same process to think of my opening jokes. And I didn't want to use any older material because I wanted it in short space of time. And what I was thinking of, the topic was my family. And, you know, it was either Indian family or just family. And I was thinking of going through the different family members. And again, if I had more time, I would have gone through each family members. And what you're doing is you're sticking with that topic and you come up with a few different associations. And once you link them together, you have a comedy routine and you're just going through different things. And then you move to a different topic. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Seema. Thank you, Komal, for helping me out. And thank you, everyone, for staying here for the workshop. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Gagan, for taking time out to be a part of the Harrovian workshop. We really had a good time with the three speakers and really appreciate all the good work that you're doing and sharing your tips with us. I would now like to hand over the stage to Rohan. Rohan, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Seema.
Thank you.
Thanks to the lovely three speakers. I'm wide awake, paying full attention to every word. Gagan, taking a cue from you, it's 2:30 a.m. here in India, and my mom has actually she's come here twice and she's asked me, do you want to eat something? So I guess it runs in the blood of every Indian family. A big thank you to the three wonderful speakers. Eduardo, I guess we're going to run all our speeches through your software. Chris, I guess there's no better word to explain than small minor tips and how big a difference can they actually make in our life. I guess that energy is infectious. And Gagan, I have no words to say. The first time I interacted with you was when I was a backup contestant to the district level, and we had a lot of chatter at that point of time, trying to get things started. And now I know why you were heading that. Right? It's quite, you can say, it's quite clear and evident right out here. So thank you so much for some lovely speeches and some lovely tips from all of you. I would want to also give a very big thank you to all the committee members, specifically Seema for doing a lovely job as the Zoom master. Thank you so much, Sushil, for doing a brilliant job again as the host, as well as streaming it live on YouTube. Thank you so much, Anjali and Komal, for being the co-hosts for today's workshop and seeing to it that we have no Zoom bombing, only Gagan bombing us with his jokes. Thank you so much, Komal, for taking all the efforts of promoting this event, as well as designing Eventbrite and all things like that. And of course, thank you to each and every Harrovian for making this possible. And of course, I cannot end this session without thanking each and every Toastmaster, non-Toastmaster, everybody who made it today to this workshop. I guess this workshop would have been incomplete without even one of you all missing from the street. Thank you so much, everyone. And we at Harrovian would love to have you all visit us as a GE, or just, you want to come and visit, get a feel of how Toastmasters is, like want to be a part of our club. More than happy to have all of you over. And I would like to sign off on two things, that this is just one of the workshops. I guess before we even executed this, I remember the team already speaking about two coming ahead. So hope to see all of you at all of those events. Thank you so much. Have a lovely week ahead. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll still keep looking out for slugs, isn't it?
I'm going to meet my wife down the allotment in a minute. She's just left. I'm going in a sec. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Thank you for a lovely evening.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you for the
Thank
invitation.
you.
Pleasure, Eduardo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yes, thanks very much.